The first day at Ridgeway High was supposed to be quiet for Alina Moore, or at least as quiet as life could be for a girl trying to start over, hiding the fact that she was a prodigy in a martial art most people couldn't even spell correctly, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. She walked through the tall steel doors with her hair tied low, her gaze fixed on the floor, her hands tucked around the straps of her backpack like she was afraid it might float away, the perfect image of a shy new girl in a school where predators hunted for exactly her kind. Ridgeway High wasn't just rough, it was a habitat where the strong flaunted strength and the weak learned to shrink, and the gang known as the Ridgeway Kings practically controlled the hallways. They swaggered through the corridors like they owned them, leaving behind a trail of laughter, bruised egos, and rumors no teacher dared to challenge. Alina didn't look at them, she didn't react when their sneakers squeaked nearby or when their voices rose with the kind of sharp authority that demanded attention. She simply kept walking, slow and steady, like a ghost silently navigating a world full of people who would never understand her. She didn't come here to fight. She didn't come here to impress. She came here because life had pushed her family into another city with cheaper rent and fewer memories. She just wanted peace, anonymity, and space to breathe without waiting for the next disaster. But fate, as usual, had different plans for her. Everything changed in the cafeteria, always the cafeteria, the stadium where every student was judged, scanned, ranked, and labeled. The buzz of voices, the clatter of trays, and the smell of overcooked fries filled the air. Alina stood at the edge of the chaos, unsure where to sit, clutching her tray of bland food with eyes that searched for an empty spot far from trouble. But trouble didn't wait for her to settle. It found her immediately in the form of Jax, the self-proclaimed leader of the Kings. Tall, built like a football linebacker, his ego inflated even more than his biceps, Jax saw Alina's meek stillness and mistook it for weakness. He nudged his group, pointed at her, and smirked. "Fresh meat," he whispered loud enough for the table behind him to laugh. Alina felt their eyes crawl across her like insects, but she didn't react. She simply adjusted her tray and made her way toward a small empty corner table. She almost reached it. Almost. A heavy hand slapped her tray from below, launching the food into the air. Gasps echoed. The tray flipped, spinning like a clumsy silver coin before crashing to the floor. Ketchup splashed across her sneakers. Mashed potatoes smeared across the tiles. Her drink rolled away, bumping against someone's shoe. Laughter erupted from the Kings as Jax stepped forward with mock concern. "Oops. My bad. Didn't see you there," he drawled, his grin wide enough to show he wished the entire school was watching. The cafeteria fell silent. Everyone stared. Alina stared too, at her shoes, at the mess, at the pathetic disaster she was supposed to cry about. But her eyes were calm. Too calm. Something about that quiet stillness made Jax's grin tilt with a flicker of confusion. She didn't shout. She didn't tremble. She didn't run. She simply exhaled slowly, the kind of breath that came before something dangerous. "Pick it up," Jax demanded, stepping closer like a king demanding tribute. "Come on, new girl. Don't be useless." Alina lifted her gaze for the first time. Her eyes were soft, but not empty. Behind them was something cold, sharp, and controlled. Something Jax didn't understand. Something he should have feared. But arrogance blinds the powerful, and Jax mistook her silence for surrender. He grabbed her backpack strap and yanked hard. Too hard. The cafeteria gasped as he pulled her toward the center aisle, dragging her like a prop for his next joke. Alina stumbled because she allowed herself to stumble, not because he made her. With a swift, mocking flourish, Jax shoved her backward, and before she could regain her footing, two of his friends lifted her by the arms. "Yo, put her on the table," someone shouted. "Lunch special." "Yeah. New girl platter." The boys laughed and obeyed. Alina's back hit the lunch table, not violently, but firmly enough to get a collective gasp from the onlookers. Her hair fanned out over the surface. Her backpack slid off her shoulder. Her palms pressed lightly against the table on either side of her. She lay there, staring at the ceiling lights, blinking slowly as if she couldn't believe how predictable bullies were. Jax leaned over her with a smirk that dripped superiority. "Welcome to Ridgeway High," he said. "We like to know where everyone stands. Looks like you're lying down." For a split second, time froze. The air grew heavy. The cafeteria seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the shy girl to break, to cry, scream, beg, anything. But Alina didn't break. Instead, she moved. It happened so fast that half the students didn't even understand what they were seeing until it was over. Her hand shot up, grabbing both boys who held her arms. Her legs folded and snapped upward with precision, using the table edge as leverage. In one smooth motion, she twisted her hips, locked her ankles around Jax's elbow, and pulled him off balance. The cafeteria exploded with shouts as the girl who had seemed fragile a heartbeat ago wrapped Jax into a perfect flying armbar, flipping him off his feet and slamming him onto the table beside her. The table bent with a loud metallic groan. Jax screamed, not out of pain yet, but out of humiliation and shock as he found his arm trapped between her legs, his elbow hyperextended, his wrist controlled, his body helpless. Gasps echoed. Trays dropped. A teacher yelled from across the room, but even they didn't dare intervene. Alina didn't apply pressure. She didn't need to. She held Jax in a locked, controlled position like she had done it 1,000 times, because she had. Let go of my arms, she said quietly to the two stunned boys still frozen beside her. They did, instantly. She released Jax and stood up in one smooth, fluid motion. Students backed away like she had grown wings and fangs. Her backpack lay on the floor, she picked it up calmly, brushed off a smear of mashed potatoes, and slung it over her shoulder. Her expression never changed, calm, distant, uninterested in the chaos she had just created. She stepped over the shocked gang leader still groaning on the table and walked toward the exit. The cafeteria parted around her like a living sea. But before she reached the doors, she paused, not for dramatic effect, but because everyone was watching, hanging on her next breath. She turned slightly, her voice soft but sharp enough to slice through the silence. Don't touch me again, she said. Any of you. And then she walked out, leaving behind a cafeteria full of students whose worldview had just shattered, and a gang leader who had just been publicly humbled by the shy new girl he thought would be an easy target. The news of what happened in the cafeteria spread through Ridgeway High like wildfire, igniting every corner of the campus with whispers, disbelief, and the kind of awe usually reserved for urban legends. By the time Alina returned to school the next day, her name wasn't just known, it was echoing, repeated in hushed tones in lockers' rooms, shouted across the courtyard, dissected in group chats, and blown up on anonymous student pages. That new girl folded Jax like laundry. She flipped him without touching the ground. Bruh, she put him in an armbar mid-air. There were exaggerations, of course, students claiming she broke his arm, that she fought 5 guys at once, that she was some kind of secret agent, a ninja, maybe a government experiment. Alina walked through the halls hearing all the nonsense without reacting to any of it. She kept her eyes low, her steps steady, her breaths controlled. Her goal for day 2 was simple, blend in again. But blending in after destroying a school bully was like trying to hide a lightning strike. Every hallway she entered quieted. Every classroom she stepped into caused necks to whip around. People stared, not with cruelty this time, but with fear, respect, fascination, or a strange mix of all three. The Ridgeway Kings were nowhere to be seen in the morning. Not a single leather jacket. Not a single loud laugh. Not a single slow-walking ego blocking the hallway. It was as if they'd evaporated. Some students said Jax didn't show up at all, others said he was in the nurse's office nursing a bruised arm and pride. Alina didn't care. She didn't fight for revenge or to be admired. She fought because her boundaries had been crossed, and she always enforced her boundaries. She found a quiet spot under the stairs before first period, adjusting her notebook and hoping, just for once, that the universe would allow her 5 minutes of peace. No such luck. Hey Alina, right? A voice called. A girl with pink braids and a backpack covered in anime pins jogged up to her, nearly slipping as she stopped. I'm Lila. I sit next to you in English. Alina blinked, slightly startled. Not because someone approached her, but because someone approached her nicely. Hi, she said softly. Lila beamed. Okay, first of all, holy crap, you're like a superhero. Second of all, no, seriously, holy crap. Alina sighed inwardly. She didn't want this. Admiration was just as suffocating as fear, both trapped her in a spotlight she never asked for. I'm not a superhero, she said. I just defended myself. Defended yourself? Lila snorted. Girl, you launched Jax into orbit. I heard he cried. He didn't cry. Are you sure? Because I heard he cried. Before Alina could respond, more footsteps approached. 2 boys, Eli and Rowan, both quiet kids from her math class, stood awkwardly nearby as if they needed permission from the air itself to talk. Hi, Eli said, rubbing the back of his neck. We saw what you did yesterday. Everyone saw, Rowan added. We just wanted to say thanks. Thanks? Alina echoed. Rowan nodded. Jax and the Kings have been making people miserable for years. Teachers can't do anything. No one fights back. Until you did, Eli said. You didn't just stand up for yourself. You stood up for all of us. Alina didn't know what to say to that. She had trained for years to fight, but never to deal with gratitude. Never to be a symbol. Never to lead anything. Lila slapped her hands together. Okay, listen up, everyone. New rule, Alina sits with us at lunch now. Alina opened her mouth. Nope. No arguments. You're part of the squad now. Squad? Yes, Lila said confidently. The Anti-Bully Alliance. Rowan groaned. Please don't call it that. Too late, Lila said. It's branding. Alina would have smiled if the universe had allowed her even one moment of calm, but fate apparently had a sense of humor. Because at that exact second, a shrill whistle blew through the hall. Students froze. Teachers peeked out of classrooms. And walking down the center of the hallway with slow, heavy steps, was Jax. Not the confident, cocky Jax from yesterday. This version moved stiffly, one arm wrapped tightly in a sling, a bruised purple mark crawling along his jaw, his eyes burning with humiliation disguised as anger. Behind him walked the rest of the Ridgeway Kings, Mason, Colt, River, and Troy, looking battered, bitter, and furious. The crowd parted from them like oil from water. Lila whispered, "Oh no." Rowan muttered, "He actually came back." Eli's voice cracked, "He's looking for you." Indeed, Jax's glare was locked on Alina like a predator tracking prey, except the predator was limping, wounded, and outmatched by the prey he didn't understand. Jax approached slowly, the hallway so silent that the squeak of his sneakers sounded like a scream. Alina felt her stomach coil. Not with fear, but with disappointment. She had hoped yesterday taught him something. Apparently not. "You," Jax growled, stopping a few feet away. "We need to talk." Lila gasped. "Is he serious?" Rowan whispered, "Oh, he's serious." Eli added, "This is suicide." Alina stepped forward calmly, her bag slung over one shoulder. "If you're here to threaten me, shut up," Jax snapped. "I'm not fighting you." That stunned the hallway. Even Alina blinked. Jax breathed hard through his nose, trying to keep his voice steady. "Yesterday should not have happened." "Agreed," Alina said quietly. He scowled. "I wasn't done talking." She tilted her head. "Then talk." Jax swallowed hard, his pride fighting with his shame, and finally forced the words out like they were shards of glass scraping his throat. "I shouldn't have put my hands on you." The hallway went silent again. No one had ever heard Jax apologize. Ever. "I went too far," he muttered, looking anywhere but her eyes. "And I paid for it." Alina waited, expression unreadable. "So here's the deal," Jax continued. "Stay out of my way. I'll stay out of yours. No more problems. No more anything." For the first time, Alina's eyes softened, not out of sympathy, but out of recognition. She had seen that look before. Many times. Jax wasn't apologizing because he understood. He was apologizing because he was terrified. She didn't want fear. She wanted respect. She wanted peace. "Fine," she said quietly. "We stay out of each other's way." Jax exhaled shakily. Relief washed over his face, but only for a second. Because behind him, Mason muttered, "Can't believe you're scared of a girl." Jax stiffened. Students snickered. The Kings shifted uncomfortably. And something dark flickered in Jax's eyes. The apology was gone. His pride was back. And he needed to reclaim it. He stepped closer to Alina, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "Just so you know," he said quietly, "this isn't over." "Not even close." Alina sighed. "That's disappointing." Jax smirked. "You'll wish yesterday never happened." He walked away, his gang following him, but not with loyalty. With confusion. Frustration. Fear. And beneath it all, something Alina recognized instantly. Desperation. She watched them go, knowing this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. Lila stepped beside her. "What now?" Alina took a slow breath. "Now," she said softly, "things get worse. Because bullies never stay humiliated. They look for revenge. And the Ridgeway Kings were already planning theirs."